Bet you can see this one coming.
How so?
I just had a feeling. I don't know. I just saw it. I just saw it.
Hmm. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. Anyway, yes. So, starting off another franchise. Of course, this one is pretty well known. I'd say it's been around for 22 years now. It's hard to believe that. I mean, this is a different breed of a slasher film, if you will. It's to where there's no particularly, distinguishable mass killer or anything like that, but it's actually death itself that decides to stalk survivors of a plane crash. And yeah, this is, I guess you could consider it classic to some extent, as you were saying. Yeah, I mean it's a pretty big franchise. It's well known. Yeah, it's an interesting one to say the least. So yeah, Devon Sawa is the star of this one. Of course, now he has different roles he's been playing through these last couple of seasons of the Chucky series, which right now he's a father, priest, if you will, the current season, which I'm enjoying so far. So
Yeah,
of
it
him in
was
that
really
role.
weird seeing him at season one, having him be in there. I'm like,
you know,
it's
he was
that
even twins in
time
that, so
shock.
he's been three characters
Yeah,
already. So.
yeah. It's the just the time having passed sort of shock because I know him from this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I
Like,
know for, but I mean, what was it like? One they did Wild America with like Jonathan Taylor Thomas too, and someone else at the time, Little Giants,
yeah,
Casper. I mean, yeah, he was
Casper.
around a lot of
Oh,
shit over the
that's
years.
yeah. Gotta
Yeah,
watch that one because
yeah,
it's the season. It's been
absolutely.
forever.
Yeah, so jumping into this one, of course, like I said, it's Death Stalking People, and this is one of five films in the franchise. And this one, I would say, still holds up quite a bit. I mean, it's a very of course very unique original idea that, as I said, you don't really have a distinguishable killer of any sort. It's death itself. And this, especially this first one, considering how pretty grounded a lot of the kills are and such, it really does kind of mess with your mind more
It's
so
like
than
a
most.
thriller horror.
Yeah, it
I'd
kind of is.
probably
I mean,
say.
especially with this one in particular, how they kind of play off, like all the characters themselves are played, pretty realistically, and I feel like a lot of the kind of one-on-one moments, like with him and Clear, in this film.
Claire.
No, it's Clear. It's Clear. Her name's Clear. That's Clear.
They said Claire.
I think that's no. I think that's it. I think it's actually supposed to be Clear. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's I'm pretty sure, which is a weird name. But anyway, whatever. But yeah, I mean, but yeah, like the human moments between like those two and stuff, you get some pretty good character beats there. It's not all just kind of like two-dimensional characters or just like cannon fodder and such. It's like, no, I mean, everyone's played pretty realistically. They all have very human moments and stuff, especially at first. Once you have the post-crash scene, the moments between him and the other adult characters, like Todd's father and stuff like that, the teacher, and just how they play off of that. It does have a little bit of weight with this film in particular. The other ones, it does get a bit more campy in various ways, but this one, again, it has a pretty grounded vibe. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, before we started, I mean, I've seen this movie many times over the last 20 years, but before we started, I said that when
No, see, it does say clear on there. It is clear. It's clear.
shit, okay, we happen to have it on the screen. Um, that considering when this came out, 2000,
Mm-hmm.
and then September 11th happened the year after, and I said when I had first gotten on a plane, that was a few years after that. It's like 2005. I said I was more afraid because of 9/11 than this movie. Cause I mean, you'd think I don't know, both things are really equally like freaky events.
Yeah, like it's. I mean, yeah, because considering the timing of this movie, it is a bit odd, when especially the
Oh, I
concept
guess.
itself, as far as this fate or like this predetermined design stuff like that. It messes with your mind a bit, especially like I said, when you have a major like blockbuster film like this, where an event like that does happen, and considering just how people go on flights in general, just how security's ramped up and stuff like that, and just how it plays with your everyday expectations, just how any normal activity can suddenly become deadly. And it does, because even like I would say through like the first like two or three films especially, where it really does leave you a bit paranoid a while after you watch it. It just feels like anything that you do is just like all of a sudden just imagine that could suddenly like some tragic stuff could just happen right.
Yeah, we were eating popcorn while watching it, and we could have choked on it.
Yeah, or just getting in your car and all of a sudden like a freaking tree branch falls and just like impales you or some crazy shit like that. It plays with your expectations and in a different way that how like maybe like when Jaws first came out, like how people were afraid to maybe go in the water, or you see Halloween, no one wants to go babysitting or some shit like that. I would say it kind of has a similar effect, especially like I said with this first one, where it plays itself fairly grounded in ways, and it just kind of it screws with your mind a little bit, and so that's a very unique fear factor as far as compared to all these other types of films. And so yeah, so as you're going through, it starts off of course with him getting on the plane. He has the vision, and then so he gets off the plane, he gets into a scuffle with him and the other guy, and so they get pulled off. Plane explodes, which leads for a nice effective moment. The build up to that, like once they're kind of fighting again out in the lobby area, and then next thing you know, the plane blows up. You see it in the background, and the glass just shatters and stuff. Which of course is a bit over top as far as the explosion being able to reach like that far. But for like cinematic purposes, at least for a nice effect, I would say for sure.
Well, I mean, big plane, lots of fuel. If you know how like explosions and like sound waves work, I'm sure it would have
Yeah,
done
but it's probably still a
something.
bit out of reach, but at the same time, like I said, either way, it is what it is. But and yeah, so I mean, death ensues. I mean, the first real victim is Todd, which I point out to you when we were going through the Saw films. He was Gibson in Saw 3D, the one that really hammed it up quite a bit. Like these are like the only two like particular things I remember like really seeing him in, and that death in particular definitely will
I
mess with your head.
can't
Very simple,
remember
but
if I
at the
saw
same
one,
time.
but yeah, the bathroom.
Yeah, yeah, very simple but very effective and freaky. And in terms of
Well,
watching that
yeah.
and just
I
how it plays
mean,
out, it's just.
cut yourself shaving, slept in the shower.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm not sure why there was the wire and clothes hanging there. That's kind of weird, but
I don't know.
I don't
Everyone's got
know.
their methods of drying their shit, so I don't fucking. It is what it is, but yeah. But yeah, I mean, so when you watch a death like that, it just again because that could happen to anybody, any slip and fall in the shower, like that's any common occurrence that could happen, and it's very freaky once you experience that. And then later on, once you get introduced to the Tony Todd character and what he brings, because he does appear in this film and a couple later ones as well. And I like right off the bat, you kind of get like you don't really know about this guy, like how this guy clearly knows
He's got a
something.
vibe.
Like he comes in, he basically gives off this certain exposition about death itself, and it seems like uh, a bit out of place, but at the same time, it kind of works.
I mean, look where he works.
Yeah, but that's the thing is that especially as you go through the films and whatever little appearances he makes, it makes you wonder. It's like this guy clearly knows the rules of this type of thing more than anyone, but at the same time, you wonder is could this guy maybe be something more than that? Could he be his own supernatural being? Could he be death himself, just kind of in the human form who
Well,
just.
isn't Candyman some kind of supernatural sort of
Well, yeah,
thing?
he's kind of like a vengeful
Like
spirit
death
that's come back and
himself,
do
sort of.
the. Yeah, he's
So,
yeah he's that and that. But that's just Tony Todd. He's just really great in
I
roles
know,
like
I'm just
that, and
saying
just.
he kind of played that sort of character, so it
Well, yeah, I mean, it
works.
makes sense to have
Yeah.
someone like him to come in and be that role and sort of be the the one
I'll
who
see you
establishes the rules. Yeah, exactly. I mean, for like the 3 minutes of screen time that he has in this one, he definitely leaves his mark, and it works
Yeah, that
absolutely so.
little speech that he had.
Hmm. Yeah. And so, yeah, so just following through with a lot of the kills, like with the one girl's death, the sudden one that where she gets hit by the bus, you could
Drop
just
fucking dead.
drop fucking.
Bam.
And it makes me wonder, like, what it was like for the audiences to see that when that first came out, because I saw this probably fairly close after it was released, probably like on home video or rental or something like that. So I've been watching them for pretty much the last 20 years, but I could only imagine having seen that one in theaters when that happened. People just like, oh shit, and it just really, again, just a moment like that, how it just hits very quickly and so suddenly to where it just plays with your expectations when watching it, and you just really just don't know. It's like, oh shit, like what the hell is gonna come up next? Like you really don't know, and it really plays with that. But if you notice earlier on, when they were at the airport, you see, of course, the foreshadowing of certain things, like not just the visions themselves, but you notice like how on the wall there's actually this picture of like a bus right behind her when they cut to a shot of her after the plane had exploded. So that was a foreshadowing
You
moment.
know what? I don't think I noticed that.
Yeah, if you go back and look, it's right there. And the
And I've
same
seen
thing,
this so many times.
and the same thing with
Go
even
figure.
Mrs. Luton. If you look at the stained glass on her front door, you see, notice the dagger that's designed right there in the middle. It's kind of representing the knife that goes through her, as you know, she's having that whole. I mean, because she gets hit with all kinds of shit. She gets
Yeah.
shards of glass through the neck from the computer. She gets the knife that comes down onto her, and it's just. I mean, she gets it pretty rough, but. And as far as the um the perception of Alex as you go through this film, and you're just wondering, it's like, yeah, of course you can kind of understand people being suspenseful of him, but at the same time, just be like, damn, people, it's like, man, cut this man some slack here. It's like, what, you think this high school kid is like that? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he could. This day and age, you could probably think that more so, but I don't. I'm like, damn, cut this guy some slack here.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely did not cause the explosion on the plane.
Yeah, it's just.
So, yeah, there's no way he could have done that.
Yeah, like I said, I can understand to some extent, but at the same time, just been like, I don't know, man. Like, would he out himself like that so easily? It'd be like, oh, the plane's gonna explode. He just jumps off and shit, and he's like freaking out. It's just, no, should probably just take it. Which, and I like how they at least by the end of it, where the cops themselves, like the FBI guys, are investigating them. At least they kind of ease off of that a little bit to where it's just like, again, everyone kind of naturally progresses. It's not like over the top, be like, no, this motherfucker, we gotta get him doing this shit. It kind of naturally all resolves to a certain extent with everyone, and it doesn't like get too crazy with that as far as like pitting. It's like, no, motherfuckers, come on, like enough, back off a little bit. You
Yeah.
know what I mean when it compared to some other things. And but yeah, again, that's just it plays all the characters very naturally and grounded.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean William Scott is also a fun role, especially when you compare
Carter, you dick!
I love it because you hear that twice, and it really is amusing every time he delivers that line. Carter, dick, and you just can't help but laugh every time, and knowing how just so different it is from like the Stifler character and stuff like
Mm.
that at the time. And yeah, again, he's just a really solid, and you feel bad when he dies because he's likable. He's his own type of
Yeah.
goofball type. As like, man, you feel bad for him, but he probably has probably the best. You could probably argue the best death in a way because again, it happens so fast, but at the same time, it's very like kind of epic shot. Like when you get it to happen, when the train comes by and just that shard, it just sliced right off. It's like damn, and he's completely, just completely done for. So the kills overall for you, you think are still pretty effective?
Oh, yeah. It's that. Mm, I think the train one is probably the only one that I'm like, okay, that one I don't have to really freak out about.
Yeah,
But the airplane, the shower, the bus, hell, even at the girl's house at the power line, that's you don't want to mess with that. But the train one was the only one.
yeah. At least it,
Although the being stuck in the car and the train coming, that's different.
yeah, and I like, and unless you pay close enough attention, you may not notice, but how Carter like pissed his pants because you can see like how just just like how drenched the front of his pants, in front of his pants is after that shit, and it's actually a nice little touch. Again, if you don't really notice it, it's
No,
right there
no,
and
it's
it's
there.
amusing. Yeah, yeah, just something like that. And uh, so yeah, by the time you get to the end and everything, yeah, it's just big, just a power line, like just everything is just going completely nuts at Clear's house and stuff, and then Alex is trying to rush over and try to save her and stuff, and he basically sacrifices himself in a way to where it's a little bit like probably a little bit, you're not really sure like what really happened there per se as far as how he kind of died but lived or something like that, or just it's
Well, my like I was kind of mentioning it. How does that work into the design or whatever? Because his heart obviously stopped,
yeah, it must have
and it
like
can stop for like
yeah, it must
X
have seized
minutes,
and then he like
and
just kind of
he
rebooted
got
and is
revived
yeah.
by the cops or by the medics or whomever, because we
Mm-hmm.
never saw that. But
Yeah.
that's why I was theorizing, like, okay, how does that work into all of this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it works still enough for like what it's going for, especially knowing that
No.
this is the first entry and how you could, and as the series goes along, they changed it up a bit where it's all the same idea, but they change up at least as far as how people see death coming and certain rules that could possibly put a wrench in death's plan and stuff like that. So you'll see like varying ways that they change it up a bit going forward. But it ends in a very solid fashion for sure. Some time has passed. They're actually in Paris, and then next thing you know, like Alex is going back and looking at design and stuff like that, and then you just leave off with the whole epic, final moment here where the sign comes down and it misses Alex. And he's like, I told you you were next. It's like, it just skipped me. So who's next? And all of a sudden the sign comes down behind Carter
And
and it just cuts to black. It does leave you with a nice finish that way for sure.
and obviously everybody knows this by now,
Mhm.
but it was 180.
Yeah, yeah,
So
if you know this, yeah, yeah. And so that's what also makes it fun is because
death is poetic.
yeah, yeah, and some could say that
I'm
for
watching
a lot of yeah, depending on certain films or whatever, foreshadowing may be done too much or whatever. But where this, it obviously it plays into that, and yeah, you don't really know what causes the visions themselves or why, or because you do maybe ask that question, especially with some of the later films. It's like, what is causing these visions? Like, is it some other entity opposite of death? Could it maybe be maybe death itself as a way it plays
Did
games?
someone take some psychoactive drug and it triggered something in their brain and they can do this sort of thing? I
Yeah.
mean, like, did they read tarot and
Hmm.
predict this shit? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but it makes you wonder. It's like, okay, maybe it's death itself. It's a way it kind of makes its own game to where it's just like, okay, I'm gonna give you a vision, and I want to see you escape and do this shit and this and that. Even though they don't allude it to in this one, I would say perhaps in later films and how you look at it, it's like I don't know. You could look at it as interesting, whatever. But regardless, the concept itself is there and it's
Mm-hmm.
fascinating, and it's a different type of creepy film where again just everyday life in general, especially
Yeah,
by the
it's
time you get
it's a little more realistic than probably you could say the Halloween
well, yeah, then
movies.
dealing with your potential average slasher
So
that comes to get you. But
yeah, or some kind of or Chucky, you know,
yeah, or just any incident of
it's
any kind, like you just walk down the
it's more
steps.
real
If
because
you
it's like real life.
Yeah, I
Duh.
mean, like I said, I mean, even depending on like, despite how maybe over the top some of the sequels may get, regardless, it's still the idea of it is still there. Like you could just imagine just walking down the steps, tripping, and maybe just breaking your arm in a very bad way, even just like a minor injury of sorts. You just again, it just plays with your head a little bit. You're just like, yeah, especially again with the next two, with the highway and roller coaster stuff in particular. You're just
It's
like,
the second one that really stuck. Well, we'll get
I
there.
still see I still see people meme the hell out of like Final Destination 2 where it's just been like that highway shit when you see a log truck, you're like, fuck no, I ain't
It,
doing that shit.
that's exactly what I was getting at. Whenever I'm traveling, whenever in the last few years, I haven't really done a lot of highway travel, but when I did, and I would see those trucks. I mean, especially if you go up through Wisconsin, all y'all out there that live up there, you
Mm-hmm.
know, log trucks. Nope,
Yeah.
nope. Back off, or like speed up, go around. Fuck it. Nope.
I mean, it's probably been. I mean, when I first got on a plane, it's probably been 10 plus years since when I first got on. I've been on a plane at least maybe about sevenish times already now, and even like yeah, when you first go on a plane, it's pretty scary to do that. But again, I can only imagine when this movie first came out, people who probably do get on planes fairly so often, and how much you're just like, fuck, I don't want to, I really don't. And so yeah, it's just again, it's just a fascinating concept. So all in all, I would still give the first one like a solid 4. It's just a good solid, horror thriller type, and it's just a fun, unique concept, and yeah, it's a thrill ride for sure. So,
Yeah, yeah.
mhm.
They were good actors, decent enough characters. I don't think anybody was like crappy, campy like in the early Friday the 13th movies where you don't give a shit about those counselors.
Mm.
It's just like fine, kill them. I don't care.
Yeah,
So yeah, like you said about Billy or the Todd guy, the Todd friend. I mean, he seemed like a nice enough guy. Seemed like fun. They were gonna have fun,
Like even the
and
Carter character, because even how much of a dickhead he is, as much you hate him, like even by the end of that, yeah, he still like kind of comes around, and even after like post plane crash and stuff like that, you can kind of understand some of his dickheadedness by that point, like at least exceedingly so because of
yeah,
what happened, just how he's looking at it and how he himself like just shows his own vulnerability and insecurity and such, and how
yeah,
he kind of comes around even by the end. So yeah, as far as the character development, like everyone, again, it's just solid. And that's the thing too, I gotta give it credit for, because yeah, compared to your atypical horror film, even for this one back in 2000, solid written characters. They really are. Everyone's pretty, as I said, pretty grounded and
mm-hmm.
realistic, and just kind of, just help push it along. They don't just feel like cannon fodder. So
Yeah. There wasn't any like a token jock or okay, the one chick was blonde, whatever, but she didn't seem like
mm.
a ditzy idiot cheerleader.
No, she was
But
like
you know what I mean. There wasn't like
yeah, she was like
tokenism.
that. She
There
was the
wasn't.
girlfriend of like the dickhead, to where it's like yeah, she loves. You could tell even though she's like probably the least utilized of the students. You could tell though, just enough so that yeah, she's the one that yeah, she loves him, but at the same time she just knows he's a dick. You're just like, I really wish you would cut this shit out, because
Yeah.
just like the final moments leading up to her death, right then she's just like, why you gotta fuck with Alex, and like enough of this shit. I want to move on. You just drop fucking dead, and then bam, she's just done. Anyway, so yeah, everyone's
Yeah.
good in
It
this
was
movie.
it was
So
a good movie. They did good. There wasn't anything like stupid happening or like man, this scene is really dragging or that sort of thing.
yeah, it
So
does, it moves at a solid pace. It gives you some good surprises, and again, just even compared to now, it really is pretty subdued when you compare to some other things, even some of its sequels. But again, it just having that, I give it more props, as much now as what I would probably have done then. So anyway, yeah, that'll just go ahead and wrap it up for Final Destination, and we will continue on with this. And
I'll see you soon.
exactly.